In today's show, we discuss, would a Donald Trump presidency lead to civil war or even world war?
And now, the TNT Talk Show, daring to go where other podcasts fear to tread.
Hello, I'm Tony Fasulo, and I share the stage with my esteemed friend and colleague, Tayo Boya. Tayo, hello, my friend. Once again, I hope you're keeping safe and well.
Don't you even flip in there.
Stop me in my tracks.
Oh no, don't even think about it, man. just, just roll on.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to say hi to our wonderful audience. Hello, audience, for another week of shenanigans on our show. Well, it will be actually after you discover what the topic is. Anyway, before we do begin with the topic, I will again ask you, wonderful audience, to continue to send in your feedback on whatever platform that you happen to be on. We do respond to comments eventually. It may be a little while, but we do get there eventually. However, if you want a quicker response, please join our Facebook group, the TNT Talkers group. And it's an open group, so anybody can join, and Tayo and I are on there, and we will respond far quicker. You can critique us if you wish. You can discuss some of the topics that we talk about on our show, suggest some even that you think that we would be mindful to discuss, and we may even invite you onto the show. Who knows? But anyway, let's move on with today's show. Now, today is an interesting one. This is Mr. Trump, our good friend and ex-president. Now, what we're asking today is, would a Trump presidency lead to civil war or even World War III? Tayo, what are your views on this topic?
Well, I've been doing some very scant, I must confess, very scant reading up on this topic. And as far as I can tell, nobody has a clue. So depending on the source you approach, you get some kind of anodyne, not very passionate, rather tired rhetoric about, from the Republican side, it's no, there's not going to be any war because Trump's a reasonable guy and he's just misunderstood. And from the Democrats, it's going to be, there will be no need for a civil war because the entire planet is going to implode with this idiot in charge. They hate him. They hate him so much. Civil wars is the least of your problems, man. Likewise, World War III. The thing about Trump is that he's so polarizing.
Yeah.
But is he? He's said to be so polarizing, but I think it's the Americans themselves are polarized. And Trump is a lightning rod for that polarization. So he's not actually the generator of the polarization. He's the lightning rod that
he
receives
seems
it.
to exacerbate those divisions, though.
No, he doesn't toe the party line. He's not a uni-party member. He's not a member of the uni-party.
Yeah,
so he's playing outside the rules, which means he's going to say things and do things that are is going to drive. But
inclusivity. I mean, give you an example. I'll give you an example. When he was fighting the election, he literally just called the states that voted for him as states that exist, and the ones that didn't, he's almost like didn't include them, like they're subhuman. Now, clearly, those people who are in those states voted a particular way, but not all of them. So he's alienating Republicans who voted in that state, who happened to the state then moved to or continue to be a Democratic state. But there's still Republicans voting in there. And the way he dismissed the whole state as a whole because it had come out Democrat seemed to be, if that's not polarizing, I don't know what is. It just
you're called Tony.
Anymore.
With your name Tony, you remind me of another Tony. And this other Tony,
is he good looking as well?
As well as who? This other Tony. The reason I'm bringing him up is that there was this constant refrain that went along with him, which was this. You may recognize it. Well, that's just Tony. Yes, that's that was everything. I mean, we were what, teenagers from teenagers all the way up to maybe even now. If we were, hey, do you know what Tony's gone and done? Well, it's Tony really is, isn't it? It doesn't mean any, it doesn't mean any harm. Not really.
No,
so it's
no, let me
Trump. Well, that's just Trump.
Yeah, but you can't say that. He's the president, or
he says
would be president of the United States.
He says all sorts of things. He's talking about grabbing women by their whatsits. He's talking. That's what I mean. That's just Trump.
But this guy hasn't got any presidential characteristics. He hasn't. He just, he's come
He did
out.
one thing that impressed me. One thing he did.
Go on.
That impressed me. When he got COVID, when he had COVID, and he went into the hospital and everything, the moment he was back in the White House, he didn't take it easy. He went back into the office. That's a very strong work ethic. And I was impressed by that. I really was. I mean, he went there, sat down there, and I think, if I remember correctly, it wasn't something he did for the publicity, because he was photographed by a member of staff or something like that.
I think I beg to differ.
Well,
because if you remember, he made a point of coming out after having COVID. Coming out of wherever he was, and made a point of going across the White House lawn. Do you remember?
So we shouldn't talk across one another now.
Okay.
In this day and age of LGBTQ thingy, you can't just say he came out. I mean, you got to be more specific. Because I'm like, wow, I know I don't listen to news any longer. Goodness gracious me.
No, he didn't do any of that sort of coming out. He came out of the building of the hospital, because in the White House there's a hospital complex,
really?
And he was being treated there. And
I thought he went to proper hospital, Mount Sinai.
Only. I think it was only if it worsened, because they've got most things at the White House itself, and so he was treated there by and large. But he was given a concoction of cocktail and drugs, and he was claiming he was fixed and got up, and to show his strength. It's a sign. I mean, Putin does it all the time. Trump felt the need to do it as well. A show of strength as the leader can recover really quickly, and in so doing can then carry on with his day-to-day duties. But it was a bit bravado, wasn't it? So what you said.
Yeah, I'll try to remember. I don't know. I don't even think it's going to be possible for me, because it was one of those things that you just catch up somewhere, probably RT, and who knows. I caught up with it, and it was like, yeah, he's not grandstanding. This is the middle of the night, and was taken by some staff member or something. So, but who knows? It could be staged. I don't know, but it was supposed to be not staged, and just the man's work ethic. And I think he must have quite a good work ethic to be.
No. I mean, his work ethic, I don't think, is under dispute. I think he is, because he wouldn't have been successful, or relatively successful, in his business empire. So he's got to have a work ethic, but that doesn't still. This
is why, of course, I'm not a billionaire. apart from the lack of talent, which is obviously not great. I think the other thing is work ethic, man. It's just like the alarm goes off and you just go, No, not today, bro. Not today. I'll phone it in.
I don't.
I should have gone into acting. I'll probably be excellent as an actor. I'm so sorry, I can't come in today.
Oh dear. I mean, look. You don't need brains or intelligence for
Well,
being successful.
no,
It's
no, no.
just
Be
work
specific.
ethic. You don't.
Apparently, we know for certain. I mean, it's indisputable. I mean, I can back what I'm about to say. I can back it up in court. No one can introduce me. You don't need brains to be the president of the United States of America. See Joe Biden. Biden. Finish. End of story. It's like done. He ain't got any. He's the president. End of story. I'm right. You're wrong. Man's a vegetable, for God's sakes, man. What the hell?
No, he's not. He's not.
Yes,
But the thing is, he's on the decline. We're recording this show, by the way. We're obviously before the election in November 24, clearly,
right.
and we're obviously earlier in the year. Biden is still the Democratic nominee. Although that's quite fluid at the moment, it would seem there seems to be a lot of noise about whether he should continue because of the debate that he and Trump had just a few weeks ago, where he was terrible. You could see that his mental capacity was not there. So for him to lead a nation as powerful as the United States, and he hasn't got the real mental capacity to do that, then he has to really step aside for the benefit of the nation and let somebody else take the reins. Who that is at this stage?
Well, this is the problem. This is the problem, Tony. You've got Kamala Harris. Apparently, you have to say it like that. It's not Kamala. You have to say Kamala.
Kamala.
I don't know why, but that's what people say. It's not Kamala. It's Kamala.
Okay.
And apparently, it's really ought to be Kamala, but they don't want it to be Kamala because because Joe Biden is a vegetable, despite what Tony says. But then you need a new classification of living being that can somehow ambulate. It can actually walk and talk, but it's not really alive. He's not a zombie exactly because it's got all the vital signs of the living. But when it comes to brain matter, you're not talking vegetable. You're not even talking dead nematode. You're talking. It's almost like an animation of some sort, animatronic. If a wire sprouted out of her mouth, you go, aha! I knew it. Advanced robotics, and something had gone wrong in the brain. I mean, I sent you a video of her talking absolute nonsense. What was it?
You did send me a video of Kamala Harris talking nonsense.
It's not what we do. It's what is it? I can't remember. I'll try to look it up. And
she repeated it so many times on so many occasions. Proud of it. Yeah, but it means
everyone's
nothing.
Sitting there going, "Hey,
what does it mean?" It's utter nonsense. And if she's now the torchbearer, if and it's a big if, if Biden were to stand aside and let a younger person take the nominee, yes, I believe they would have a stronger chance against Trump because personally, this is my own opinion, that's all it is, I don't believe that Biden will stand a chance because his advanced years, he's struggling and he just cannot compete against Trump as is. However, some of the nominated potential replacements, if there are any, good grief, they're no better.
Well, there's only one I can think of because, okay, it can't be, according to the analysts I watch and listen to and read, according to them, it can't be not a woman because by right, it can't be not a woman, it can't be a man.
Why?
Okay, because naturally, if it's not Biden, naturally it falls to Kamala. So if you're not going to have Kamala, that's okay, but are you going to have a woman? because otherwise all the women are the main voters in the Democratic Party voters. They're going to be really ticked off because it's sort of their turn, and now you're saying no, it can't be your turn. So if you dare put forward a man, I think Gavin Newsom or something, I can't remember his name. He's supposed to be the next person that they're thinking of. If you put him in there, you're definitely going to lose the elections 100%. And
because
also
of the female vote.
Because of the female vote, which is the main vote behind the Democratic Party, the Democrats. Sorry, the Democrats. Now you've got the other things that actually it shouldn't just be a woman; it should be a woman of color. Otherwise, you're going to upset the black female vote, or even the black votes, both men and women. It's like, well, hang on a second. Why, if it's meant to be Kamala, why are you bypassing her? So what has been suggested, and I can't see anything to stop it, is, can you guess who?
Who?
Michelle Obama.
Oh, now that's interesting because she would win. Almost.
Well, that's what they're saying.
Yeah, if she wanted to stand, she would win because she's seen favorably amongst the whole population by and large.
I wouldn't go that far.
Every single one.
A lot of people call her Michael Obama. So.
Oh, stop that.
No, I'm not the one. I say a lot of people call her Michael Obama. There's a hatred for Obama and his wife both. So it's not by any means the whole population. I think enough independents, people who don't identify as being either Democrats or Republican, enough of them would be quite happy with Michelle Obama. They got nothing against her, so to speak. So if the Democrats will swing behind her for sure, and then the vast majority of these other people will swing behind her, I think Trump might be done for, to be honest.
Yeah, agreed. If that would obviously mean that Kamala Harris would not then, have ambitions to be president.
She would be offered, apparently, the same people that listen to, I don't know where they get their information from, she would be offered governorship of California. And she'd be quite happy with that, apparently. She'll be there for 8 years.
Well, the thing is, California is as big as some countries, just that state. So anyway, let's get back to the topic itself. We were speculating, we went off at a tangent slightly.
Oh, I've got the quote, by the way.
Oh, go on. This is Kamala's quote that
Favorite
she keeps
quote.
repeating. Yeah, go on.
What can be unburdened by the things that have been? What can be unburdened by the things that have been?
Okay, where's the rest of it? Is that it?
That's what I've got.
It, was it?
That's what I've got. What can be unburdened by the things that have been is what we're going to deal with. It's not. That's not what she said. I've given you the quote. That's what she keeps repeating. What can be unburdened by the things that have been?
What can be unburdened?
Don't
say. I'm trying to work it out now. You've given me this puzzle.
You won't. What?
Okay.
What can be unburdened by the things that have been? And when we deal, when we're dealing with our problems, we must remember that what can be unburdened by the things that have been are the things that we must concentrate on. And never forget that what can be unburdened are the things that have been.
You get it?
Of course not. It's gibberish. It doesn't mean it. I struggled with this. I played all sorts of mind games with this.
Thought that the people in power have to convey messages that the population can grasp and run with. She's coming out with stuff that people are scratching their heads going, what?
Yes.
It's nonsense.
She's left the stage and people are still going, did you get that? What's fantastically genius thing I've ever heard. Oh, it's utter nonsense. And then, but she's gone, man. She doesn't
clarify it. Huh? She doesn't clarify it. She says it over and over.
I don't know if people can actually get a hold of it. I don't know if we've got the link. I've got the link. Can we put it up for people so they can visit the link?
We can share it.
The number of times she says it, she doesn't just say it once. She says it dozens of times. And, someone has gone and recorded, stitched together all the times she says it. And it's just the same thing. Just What?
But it doesn't mean anything. It's
No.
not a rally cry, is it? It's not a, even Trump, MAGA, make America great again. At least that's
Yeah.
that makes sense. It's a rallying cry. As much as I'm not necessarily a Trump fan, it's a good call. It's a good rallying call. But what Kamala is suggesting it doesn't inspire, it doesn't
First,
motivate.
first of all,
It leaves people confused.
is it a question or is it a statement? Because you can actually make it a question. What can be unburdened by the things that have been? Or you can make it a statement. What can be unburdened by the things that have been?
That sounds better when you said it like that.
Yeah, but what does it mean?
I don't know. It just sounded.
I think that's what she does. She makes it sound portentous, and suddenly when I don't know.
Oh, dear me.
Anyway, there we go. Just because I found it.
Yeah, you found it. We had to share. Right. Okay. Apologies. We obviously took a
But
tangent.
if you know, ladies and gentlemen, if you can actually work it out, should we offer a prize? What are one of our mugs?
Yeah, we could do. Yeah, absolutely. We have we haven't got one here, have we? Damn.
Yeah, of course I have. I don't know if you can see it because I've got this virtual background thing on.
Oh, you
can you see properly?
You have to put it right next to your face.
Yeah,
Then you'll see it. There you go. Put it next to your face. There you go. TNT.
TNT.
TNT mug. Yay. Bit of merch there. If it's also on the back, you got us on the back. Oh, you can't see that. There you go. A little bit better. It's a TNT talk show. Put it at the front of your face. Put it near your face at the front.
In the front.
Yeah, no, you can't see it.
No, okay.
Anyway, there we go. You can there. Cool.
There
you go.
Yay.
Right. We've got one for our listening audience. Obviously can't see that. Tayo just demonstrated one of the mugs that one of our merch that if you put in a good comment, if you put anything that we think is the winner, that's useful, that sounds great, makes us laugh, makes sense, then we'll get in touch with you directly and we'll send one out to you as a prize. So yeah, please send those comments into us, whatever platform you happen to be on. But if you can get on TNT Talkers, then please go on there. Yeah. And we will respond to you immediately on there. Right, let's get back on point. Trump presidency. Let's assume that the Democrats have not replaced Biden, but Biden will contest the November presidential election alongside Trump. So that pretty much means that Trump will become president again. So because of his polarizing personality, is there a possibility that it could create civil war in the States because he is splitting the Democrats and Republicans? And there's such, not hatred, I don't know if I can use that term, but there's certainly, the Democrats do not rate Trump as a president at all because of his bombastic mannerisms and the way he deals with stuff. So could they even go to the point of having civil war or even instigate secession, where, I think that's the right word, yeah, secession, where they want to remove states from the United States and become, unilaterally move states away so there's no longer a union? Could that even be possible?
I don't think it's if Trump wins, to be honest with you. I don't see how a Trump win could lead to civil war. America, for all its troubles, it's got a relatively stable judiciary, never mind the lawfare that they've been using against Trump recently. It's got its armed forces, but I don't think they're going to launch a coup or anything like that. I think that'd be quite difficult in America, given that everybody and his brother is armed, which was the whole point of arming everyone and their brother. So I don't think that's a show. I think it is more likely, I'm not even saying there's going to be a civil war, but more likely that there could be enough strife that shots are fired.
What, armed militia?
Well, just strife, just a melee, just overexcited people, shooting at one another and that sort of thing. Not if he wins, if he doesn't win, and people think that the election was stolen
Again.
So that's the problem. That's going to be the problem. Because if the polls are showing he's going to win, and all of a sudden he doesn't by a huge majority, and people say, well, my vote wasn't counted and this and that sort of thing, all that can save America from descending into chaos, and the extreme end of that would be civil war. But what will save America from that is a strong judiciary that actually has the backbone and the foresight to say, look, you got to play this thing straight. But I saw.
Why wouldn't they? I mean, I would have thought that they would if he
the Supreme
genuinely
Court, yes.
If
the Supreme Court.
Yeah, but I don't think there's any meddling with the voting. I think if he genuinely got more votes, he will be president. I don't think that will be under dispute.
I think there's a reason for there are reasons for concern. Let me see. The problem is you don't like my news source. What I do believe that I saw today here, it says, what does it say? No, that the Democrats are trying to stop a law that makes it more difficult. They're trying to prevent a law that would make it more difficult, that would make voter fraud more difficult.
They're trying to stop the law, which actually makes voter fraud
more difficult.
So voter fraud is eradicated and they want to prevent it. That's what you basically say.
No, they want to prevent a law that
stops voter fraud.
That will stop voter fraud. So instead of saying, nobody wants voter fraud, we're all behind this law, they say, no, there's no need for this law, or it's going to help Trump or something. So that they're actually in the way of justice blooming.
I'd like to see the detail of that rather than
you don't say you can't read
said.
It, don't you? So
is there any way of you summarizing that and pasting it somewhere that we can then read?
Okay, I'll find it as we're going along, and we'll have a chat about that.
Because I'd be surprised that they would want to inadvertently, because if a law is brought in that actually prevents voter fraud, you're improving democracy. Because why would the Democrats then feel the need to stop that unless there's hidden things regarding it that don't make sense or are skewed in a certain way, like, oh well, if we bring this in, we prevent voter fraud, but every Republican vote counts for 3, something like that. So I'd like to
that would be a bit extreme, to be honest.
But you know what I mean? Something where if it's too close to call, it defaults to the Republicans, something daft that's got an amendment to it. Then I could understand them having umbrage against supporting the law. But surely if it's a straight down the middle law that prevents voter fraud, then I don't think the Democrats should oppose it.
No, I don't. I mean, no one thinks they should. I'm just okay.
Well, you've implied that they are.
Democrats fight against bill. That's what they call it in America.
Yeah.
Bill to stop illegal voting. This was 2 days ago.
Illegal voting.
To
stop illegal voting. What does that mean? Doesn't sound quite.
Well, illegal voting is when you're not allowed to vote, and then you go ahead and vote. So maybe
is this illegal immigrants not allowed to vote, which they're not allowed to vote anyway?
Well, they're not meant to. But if you're not asking for ID cards and stuff, which the Democrats don't want people to do, so they said their excuse is that Black people generally don't have the ID cards, the IDs necessary so they're stopping Black people from voting. This is the argument. And
that's actually true.
But the problem is that it's true. The problem then is that all these illegals can vote then.
I agreed. They've got to improve it somehow. But what they're saying as well is that their vote, they've got a huge Black vote in the Democratic Party. And by introducing this, you're now removing that potential vote. Granted, it's there to improve illegal voting and eradicate that, sure, but they have to sort of give the population time in order to get the necessary IDs so that they can still vote. I mean, we've seen that just recently in our election in the UK. We had exactly that, where people were asked to bring ID to vote, and a large number didn't have the ID to vote. And there was a big hoo-ha about this because they were lost votes. They couldn't vote because they didn't have the necessary ID. And these are just normal citizens. Granted, there was a big demographic that were underprivileged, but they've now lost their right to vote based on a technicality, which is a shame in a democratic system where everyone has got the right to vote. So,
well, what happens? Well, I've got some details for you, which I sent you a link, by the way. So
okay.
the bill is called the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, SAVE Act, which requires proof of U.S. citizenship to vote in federal elections, which you and I would say, but that's perfectly reasonable.
Yeah,
I voted the other day, and I had to show my passport.
Yes.
Or
ID. You had to driving license, something with a photo.
License or something with a photo on. So,
which is
perfectly
interesting because
normal.
many Americans don't own passports.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing. I think they said it was like a
huge number.
A third have passports and 2/3 don't.
Yeah, that's over 200 million people.
Yeah, but
that's incredible.
We don't really want them running around the planet anyway, so it's perfectly okay with me. Oinks. Here, the bill requires individuals to provide proof of U.S. citizenship. Here are the votes, the vote counts. Key votes: 221 Republicans and 5 Democrats voted in favor of the bill. Don't forget, this is the lower house. It's not Senate.
Yeah.
221 Republicans and 5 Democrats voted in favor of the bill. 198 Democrats voted against the bill. 198. You can imagine
still passed.
Well, it's still passed, but it's not going to pass in Senate, is it?
They'll be too close. Yeah, too close.
Very, very close. Yeah. So why are it boils down to, why are the Democrats not supporting this? Because why don't they fix the system so that people who are entitled to the blooming ID card can get the ID cards easily? That's the way to fix the system.
If it's easy to get, then it doesn't make it an ID system, is it? The whole point is
what I mean by
there
easy,
has to be challenge to get the ID system in order for proof to be determined. And it takes time. It takes time.
It's too late now. I mean, you can't do it when you've got 4 months to let. I mean, they've known of this problem all this time. I mean, it makes people very suspicious. Why are you so eager to have all these illegals crossing into America?
So that they have the right to vote, but they're illegal.
Yeah,
so they haven't got the right to vote.
You can't check them. If you can't check them because anybody can vote, then basically you've just imported a whole bunch of voters.
Indeed. So that is something that they need to sort out.
So if Trump loses and then he says it's all these illegals you've been letting in, I think it's something like 16 million since Joe Biden became president.
16 million or 1.6 million?
No, 16.
16 million?
16 million. 16 million in the 4 years he's been president. So what's that? 4 million.
Where have these come from? Because you're taking a huge chunk of populations in the middle of... No, they're all coming through Mexico, aren't they?
They're all coming through Mexico, but they're coming from the whole world. Apparently, you even got Chinese flooding the place. I don't even know why Chinese are even going to America unless they've been sponsored by the Chinese government with some kind of nefarious...
Well, I wouldn't say that. They could be persecuted and they got away.
Really, the Uyghurs, you mean, people like that?
Yeah.
Well, maybe, but it's a long way to go. Anyway, the Chinese, Africans, apparently.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
You got people from the Middle East getting in there, so you got Latin Americans getting in there. So basically, everybody here and his brother and sister are piling in. It's literally a walk across, a dry riverbed, and you're in.
Okay, that's a separate topic.
Well, no, it's not, because I'm saying that if Trump loses and then blames it on these people, then you do have hotheads who are going to say it was stolen.
Very difficult to disprove as well.
Yeah, well, the allegation is going to be really difficult. Since you didn't take anybody's ID,
how are you going to know? Yeah, indeed.
How do you prove that actually?
Well, how do they do it now? What do they do to vote? What sort of ID? They must bring something, but maybe it's not I don't know. How do you do it?
I have no idea, Tony. I have no idea. It could be just how bill as we would do in the UK. If we were not using photographic ID, it would be your utility bill, wouldn't it?
Well, we can't now. You have to use photographic
No,
ID.
I said if we did not have that
Right.
system in the UK, then I suppose all we could have is utility bill. What else is there?
Yeah, indeed. Interesting. But that's not enough. That could be, that's
Yeah,
just clearly not an
anybody
ID, is it?
anybody can get a hold of
Yeah,
anything. Yeah.
exactly. I would like to know, I would like to know that you'd have thought that more people in the US had bank accounts than passports, right?
I suppose, yeah, because I mean, I don't think the US likes people being paid cash. I mean, they do get paid cash, but so
Well, they
it was
do. They
like
still do.
it
They
was
still
like
get
when
a
I was working
paycheck,
for
don't they?
certain
They get a
companies,
check. Yeah,
they wouldn't give me a check. It had to be paid into an account.
I know. But in the States, they still accept checks. Still very, very common and very used checks, written
Mm.
checks. And you have to bank them into an account. So most
So you still need a bank account.
you still need a bank account. That's what I'm saying. But the bank accounts can't just be opened. They needed some form of ID. So couldn't they use the bank account as a form of identification if they don't currently have any photographic
I don't
ID?
know. The important thing is this, that apparently, I mean, this bill wouldn't be a thing if somebody wasn't worried about illegals voting. So any way you want to slice it, illegals might be able to vote in sufficient numbers as to make
To
the
skew
Republicans
the outcome. Yeah.
worried. And if the polls keep showing, it all depends on what the polls show. If the polls show whoever runs for the Democrats is way in the lead, and then the Democrats win, no one's going to say anything. It's going to be, well, Biden was in the lead, so what's the fuss?
Yeah.
Trump lost, but it's not. It's showing Trump in the lead,
Yeah.
and it's showing Trump in the lead in such a way that someone was explaining on a podcast. He was explaining that even if you take the error, the error of margin error, what's it called again?
Margin of error, yeah.
The margin. If you
The
take that
6
into
points
account,
is huge.
it's still because 3 points. It's 3 points, isn't it? There's a margin of error for a lot of
Yeah,
these
yeah,
people.
yeah, yeah.
So 6 points is that he's still way out there
Yeah,
in
he's away.
swing states. So this is according to this person, is all but done that Trump is in the White House, and then it turns out that he actually loses by 15 points because
No.
all the illegals go, something ridiculous like that.
No,
That's when
but
it's
if
good.
they are, think about it.
Mhm.
If all the illegals did, it's like a lot of the illegals aren't necessarily going to be all over the US, are they?
No,
Aren't they going to be
they're in
concentrated
certain.
in the southern states?
Well, I think there's concentrated in the states where they they want Trump.
They want Trump.
They want Trump. So
Well,
if you put them in there and then they vote Democrat, you're going to swing everything on its head.
I'd be amazed because I think the southern states
Well,
are
Texas, for example,
all.
isn't Texas pro Trump? Very pro Trump.
Oh gosh, yeah. And there's
And they
no
go,
way it's going to be
so
overturned. No way.
I'm saying because what do I know? I'm just saying that I'm trying to give you a scenario. I'm not saying this is what's going to happen.
No, I get it. I
I'm
get it.
saying
It's
supposing.
interesting.
I mean, because a lot of them are in New York, don't they? They got bust into New York first, then they get their $5,000.
Yeah.
Then they naff off to other places. A lot of them
Well, they
off to
can't. They've got to use
Florida.
the $5,000 in New York. They can't naff off elsewhere.
No, well, they do naff off elsewhere.
No. The
Oh.
$5,000 has to be spent in New York. It can't be spent anywhere else.
All right.
It's only
So
accepted in New York. So
is it a
it's
card?
yeah, it's
Okay.
only accepted. So they have
So
to be used in New York.
knowing New Yorkers.
Hmm.
So you give them the car $5,000, you take $4,000 and you naff off. So
No,
what I
because
do.
the person that's got the card is the only one that can use it because they've got
Come
to
on, you
have
just said
ID.
there's no ID. Right, you just said no ID.
No,
Okay,
I
how does an
didn't.
illegal have an ID? You're going
Because
back.
they're
You're going
not an
back on yourself.
illegal. They've once they've been processed, they're not an illegal, are they?
I think
The whole point.
They are illegals. They're waiting. They are asylum seekers. They're in this.
But once they've been found, that's when they get the money. They don't get it as an illegal. That's the whole point. They've been processed. So they're no longer an illegal. And to get them started, they get given $5,000 to spend in New York only.
I
So
don't
guess
know.
what? They're going to stay in New York, aren't they?
I don't know. I don't know. So we're
Okay,
missing the point here. I'm not
indeed.
something I have to look up, but the reason I'm saying this is because they were spending the money on gambling in Vegas or something. That's the report I read. Someone was
Hmm.
complaining and saying Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Oh,
It's like, what the heck is this about? They're spending the money in Las Vegas, and they're going to Florida. A lot of them go to Florida for some funny reason. They wind up in Florida. So there we
but
are.
that's a Republican state.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Isn't that what I'm saying? That they're
Yeah.
encouraged to go to these Republican states. A wink and a nod is what I think. Anyway, it's what I'd do if I was trying to run some illegal scheme like this.
Okay. Well, anyway,
Underhanded scheme rather
let
than.
let let's come back to the point, right? We were saying
Yeah.
civil war. Let's say we're
Civil
now.
War, I doubt it's got to go. It's got to be Trump is supposed to win, and he doesn't win. He loses massively. Then you got problems, big problems. But if he wins, I don't see you got problems.
Well, I'm not sure about that.
Okay,
I
why
mean,
would there be problems? Why? Okay, I can't see why there'd be problems.
it's the polarization that he's created, and I mean, you're not going to get states that want to leave the union. You're not going to get secession, for instance.
Mhm.
That's too difficult anyway, because apparently the what I was reading was the states don't have a right to unilaterally secede from the union. They can't do it. They have to any if they try, then it's illegal.
Mm.
It's got to be consent from the state as well as the federal government. So that's unlikely that the federal government will read.
I
The
thought it
only
was 2/3 of the states have to agree. So
yes, it's
if Texas
something.
wants to go, 2/3 of the states have to say yeah. So first of all, the way I understand it, Texas needs an internal vote where 2/3 of its citizens say
Citizens who say yes, leave
we
the
want to leave.
union.
Then 2/3 of
The rest
America,
of the
the rest of the states have
states
to say yes, you can.
and the federal government has to agree to.
I don't think that's necessary. I mean,
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
if
yeah,
two
yeah.
thirds of the states say
The
Texas can
Supreme
go,
Court case, which was Texas versus White in 1869, established that the
1869.
1869, which is still valid, the states do not have the right to unilaterally secede from the union.
Yeah.
According to this ruling, any attempt at secession would be illegal without consent from both the state and federal governments. Both the state and federal governments. Now, if they to secede legally, a state would likely need to pursue a constitutional amendment, which requires approval, as you've said, 2/3 of
The two
both
thirds.
the House of Congress
Mm.
and 3/4 of state
Three-fourths.
yeah, 3/4 of state legislatures, 3/4. This is a huge bar, high bar. So unlikely.
Yeah, because the blue states would all say no.
Yeah, they say no. They
But
say
I
no.
wonder how many red states there are now. But not enough, I suspect. No,
Yeah.
not 3/4 for God's sake.
Also,
That's for
then
sure.
they'd have if they even if they if they did it right. Okay, imagine they got the votes and they did it and said, right, we don't want to be in a Trump-led federal government, or vice versa. We no longer want to be in a Biden-led US. You'd have all sorts of economic issues as well, trade barriers, federal funding would stop. They'd have to have their own defense force, which is dealt with currently by the federal government. You'd have to manage your borders. You'd have to have international relations separately from the federal government. These are crazily ridiculous things
To be
that
honest with you, all that can be negotiated by reasonable people. For
it takes
example,
look at
you'd say,
Brexit. It's not reasonable. It's supposed to be reasonable. It's still not
well,
happened.
because of the people who
Oh,
were negotiating on our behalf. Definitely, in this case, you'd say for the next 50 years, federal government deals with foreign policy and all that on our behalf or whatever. And it's really a question of, like you said, income of the states, who pays what to whom. It always boils down to the money. How do we distribute money? And if this is an independent state and it's agreeable as to how it's going to buy into protection from the greater America, that's all that's really required, to be honest. Because it'll be like a confederation more than anything else, which is what exactly the southern states wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted a confederation of states. So
But to break up
that,
the union in doing so, though, there was
exactly,
too many. Anyway,
exactly.
okay, let's get back on point because I'm mindful of the
So
time. We're
I don't
already
believe
going
your
through it.
position at all. That's
No, I don't think. Therefore, you're right.
a Trump
If
win
Trump
would.
gets in,
Hmm.
I don't think there'll be civil war. There'll certainly
No,
be unrest, but he will he encourage? No, I can't see
I mean, he's going to
Democrats
go after
being.
people, though, isn't he?
Oh, he will,
He will
and
go after
that's the
people.
bad
So
thing.
so
And these
that
powers that now he's got, that the president has, he could bump people off and not be.
well, you know what? This is what happened. It's amazing to me that a politician would be stupid enough to acquire power and not think what happens when I leave office. Because that's what the old politicians used to do. They used to think forward. They used to be able to seek a couple of steps ahead. But the current crop of politicians, they're so idiotic. They can't even see where they are right now. Never mind a step or two ahead. Why would you grant yourself all these powers, thinking you're going to be in office forever? You won't be. And then the other
No,
fellow has them, and then he'll use them after. And by the way, you've just shown him how to use lawfare.
yeah,
That wasn't a great idea.
no. Okay, so we've established that civil war is unlikely if
Nah,
Trump
it's very unlikely,
was
I think.
president.
Mm.
What about world war? Now, this is another issue
Mm.
because let's be honest, Trump is quite bombastic.
Mm.
He almost caused the problem with what's his name? What's his name? North Korea's
I know it's always Kim. All I
Kim
remember
Jong
is Kim. There are too
Kim
many of
Jong
them.
Un. Yeah,
Il
I
Sung,
mean,
Il Yun, Il Myung, Yang
but
Wang, who knows?
also he has a favourable view of Israel, and at the moment, Israel's not everybody's cup of tea.
Nope.
But he made a point, if you remember, while he was president, to move
Yeah.
the US
Embassy.
headquarters from
Jerusalem, eh?
Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, which
Mm.
caused the real problem. And I don't see that his views will change there. He'll give them even more support, which at the moment probably.
Trump is a very odd. He's an odd fellow. There's this guy I used to love reading. What's his name now? Bertie Wooster. Who wrote Bertie Wooster and all
Bertie
that sort of thing?
Wooster,
Yeah.
the cartoon strip.
Is it? I read it as a proper book. I didn't know
Oh,
it was
okay.
a cartoon. P.G. Woodhouse.
Okay.
P.G. Woodhouse.
Yeah.
And he had a lovely phrase. He used to his some of his other characters, another character would describe as he was a strange old cove.
Cove.
Yes, a cove. This is a strange old cove.
Really? Is
You
that to
know,
stop him swearing?
no, it was very British upper class
Oh,
back in the
okay.
20s and 30s. They would describe it as strange old cove. Sort of chap who would wear his hat backwards or something for no good reason, but he just insisted. So
Hmm.
I think Trump is a strange old cove. And the thing about it is that a lot of people think he is an idiot, but he is, to me, the living epitome of what's his name now? Of the gentleman who invented the pan-galactic goggle blaster.
Sorry.
The gentleman who invented the pan-galactic goggle blaster. Zaphod Beeblebrox. If you've ever read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, yeah,
Oh
you
my
remember that Zaphod Beeblebrox,
God.
you couldn't remember Ford Prefect and all this and Arthur Dent. They wondered, are we standing in the presence of genius or in the presence of an utter buffoon? Because they couldn't work it out. And I'm saying that Trump is the same thing. He's just like, I don't know. What are you, clever? Am I stupid? Are you? One of us is stupid, but I can't figure out who it is.
Oh my God.
I believe he really loves America. He really does love America. And he's already said one or two things that makes me think that the Israelis better not depend on him. Because he's saying that the way they're fighting that war isn't good for them or for America. And when he puts that for America thing, that's serious.
Yeah.
When Trump tells you it's not good for America, he really means it.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So they could turn around thinking, oh yeah, everything's going to be all right, and then Trump would just pull one of his trumps and
Mhm.
just go, yeah, no, I'm not signing that.
Yeah.
You guys need to find peace. You understand? And then he would like, he do his hands like this. Yeah, I told them. Then they
Yeah.
got it. And then everybody be like, what the? No, really, he can be like that. So I wouldn't be so sure. I think he's got a apparently visceral hatred of China. And I think that's the problem.
He does. Yeah, he does.
He
He doesn't
really
like
doesn't
them.
like China. And things could go wrong in that part of the world rather than anywhere else. And I am one of those people. I don't really think the Chinese army is huge and all that, but I'm not sure that they'd win a war because they're not war tested.
No.
I mean, the last time they fought a war, they lost, which is Vietnam of all people. They lost against the Vietnamese, but they were fighting seriously. I mean, the Americans were mucking around as they usually do on the battlefield, but the Chinese went in there to win, and they lost. I don't think they know how to fight. To be honest with you,
Strategically.
I don't think they're very good warriors. I'm sorry, Chinese people. That's my opinion.
Oh, I don't know. I think the
there
good
are
warriors
things.
are just not as organized as we can imagine. They. I don't know. You wouldn't want to test it, mind you, personally.
Well, the problem is this
Sheer
time
numbers.
they are no, it's not that. Is they're industrialized. They are so heavily industrialized that they've taken the position of America that America had in the Second World War. They can push out missiles and armaments and tanks and ships and at an unmatchable rate. I mean, I was saying the other day that Russia can probably produce about, I think they're saying now, 3 million shells a year. 3 million shells a year. And they were saying that America and the EU can together produce about 800,000 shells a year.
Oh, that's
yeah.
slow.
Yeah. And it's going to take them 5 years or so to ramp up or anything. But if the Chinese got involved, they can make 250,000 shells a week.
A week.
A week.
Blimey.
So you're not going to sort of amble up to China, and then you got to cross this blooming ocean.
I know.
And they're going to see you coming, and they're going to be waiting for you. So it's all very interesting. I don't believe there will be an actual shooting war. I think that what is more likely to happen is a trade war that can get really nasty. But actual
What
shooting
about
war?
cyber war?
Well, I don't
That
know.
seems to be the thing at the minute, where you can take out your enemy's systems, not even by firing a bullet. You literally are doing it via hacking. And there are strategic areas of society that can be affected by this. I mean, if someone takes out your electricity grid, that's a mess up, isn't it? Let's be honest. And hospitals have been easily targeted, and they've happened in the UK too by
I
a
don't think you need
foreign
to do that.
force.
I don't
No,
think
but
I think you just need to get Russia to stop selling. I don't know if people understand or know this. Just stop selling America uranium. And apparently that will shut down the American power grid.
wow.
Yeah, because all the uranium, all the enriched uranium comes from Russia.
How is that
not
still going then? This is just nonsense. This is what I mean. It's just, they're supposed to be at loggerheads, and then all this is happening. It's all bluster. That's bluster with Ukraine.
This is when you start talking about a conspiracy theory. We're looking at things. Look, a true conspiracy theory has got to be something that when you look at it, it doesn't make sense. President JFK's assassination. You look at it, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Right? What is happening now with Ukraine and Russia and all this, it doesn't make sense. It really, I am not even a conspiracy theorist, but I just smell a rat. I mean, it doesn't add up.
It's strange, isn't it? It is strange. You're right there, because the the things that are happening, America and Russia are still talking, diplomatically. They're still trading in different, like you say, with some of the bits that America needs. That's still happening.
Still very
behind
much
the
happening.
Scenes.
Yep.
They're also, do you know this thing that they're shooting this, is it not a rocket? There's something happening with the space exploration, some big project that all the countries are involved in. Should America at the table? They're talking to each other on the project. It's like, what?
I thought you
they
were
were talking to each other. What's going on?
I have no. I don't know what's going on. Something very peculiar is going on. I don't really know. I don't really understand it. I don't really understand it. And at the same time, you've got seemingly increasing presence of NATO troops in Ukraine. And now the F-16s, I understand, are actually on their way to Ukraine.
How are they going to get them in Ukraine?
Well, it's
They'll fly them in.
Well, you're going to fly them. They're going to fly them in. And Russia has said when they land, when they enter the combat zone, so you can fly them in directly to an airfield, for example. That's not in the combat. They have not participated in the combat. I mean, they will be blown up because they're war machines. But that's fine. What you have to ask yourself is this: they can't be maintained in Ukraine. Ukraine doesn't have the capacity to maintain them.
So they even have the pilots. How are they going to fly them?
Well, they've got contractors, haven't they? Military contractors. So
you've got not Ukrainian.
No,
they won't fly planes into war-torn areas. Because
why not? 5,000 per mission, 10,000 per mission, fly 50 missions. Why not? 500,000.
Wow!
If you survive, you just be very ready. You know, your hand is going to be so close to the ejection seat that if you sneeze, you will accidentally eject yourself. Because at the slightest, you want to spend your money. So when the missile, when your warning system goes, you're out of there, man. This is why you don't use mercenaries. You don't have a dog in the fight. Anyway, so you got all these assets moving into Ukraine.
But Trump is going to stop it. He said he'd stop it. If this, I mean, let's talk about.
So we're talking about Trump. So
yeah,
he says so, but who is he going to surround himself with? The last time he brought in John Bolton, of all people. So let's wait to see if he wins. We have to see his team, because the last time he really messed up on his team. He got exactly the wrong people. He got all the war hawks around him. Has he learned his lesson? Is it more of the same? What? I don't know.
He says he would stop the war in Ukraine in a week.
Well, if you tell the Ukrainians that he's not, so you're no longer supplying, you're not backing them.
Yeah, they'll have to stop.
They'll have to stop.
Yeah.
So he could do it.
Yeah.
Boris Johnson, by the way, and I said at the time, he missed an opportunity to go down in history as a great statesman. It was such
Boris Johnson?
Boris Johnson. All he had to do was to fly. All he had to do was to fly to Russia at the beginning of this thing and say, okay, you don't want Ukraine to be ever in NATO. Britain will sign a treaty with Russia guaranteeing that Ukraine will never be allowed into NATO. Britain will forever veto Ukraine's membership of NATO. Come back, get get Parliament to sign up to it, get the House of Lords to sign up to it, make it an international treaty. Bam! Bada boom, bada. You've stopped the war. Hero of the day. Why you didn't think about it? You didn't think of it. You should have done that.
Don't know. Anyway, I'm mindful of the time. We're getting close to the top of the hour. I want to see whether you think if Trump's presidency could lead to world war, because what he could do is, and he already did this first time he was in power, is say about NATO, and he would pull out of NATO. That would then leave the alliance in fear, effectively, because they're the biggest benefactors. Hence, would this embolden Russia to then take more of the smaller ex-Soviet nations back?
Very well, I don't believe that Russia wants to do anything like that. Just because America isn't in NATO doesn't mean it won't come to its former partners' aid if they go that far. I mean, when he says he's going to leave NATO, is he going to pull his troops out of Poland? Is he going, they've got huge bases in Germany, huge bases. Is he going to pull them out? Is Congress going to let him? I don't think there's a limit onto the American president's power. It's not a question of signing an executive order. Congress Congress isn't going to agree to that. So no, I don't think so. I mean,
so are we saying therefore that if Trump became president, the world would be a safer place?
Well, yes. And I'll tell you why, because we don't know who's running Joe Biden. It's not Joe Biden. That's for
Oh,
sure.
we've established
So
that.
who's running Joe Biden and what they're trying to do?
Indeed.
Because everything is really chaotic right now. So hopefully with Trump, there'll be obviously Trump isn't even the best. I mean, I don't know why we can't get someone else. It's that kind of, but the way the American politics runs, it's not really viable.
The only person with a cape that could come in and solve the day is, as you've said at the top of the show, Michelle Obama.
Yeah, yeah.
But could she be? Because she's already said that she didn't want to stand.
I don't blame her. Would you blame her? Who wants to be the new
No,
president? No, it's horrible.
no,
And I don't think she's got that ambition. And
no.
besides, I mean, for the sake of her marriage, because wouldn't Barack want to run things?
Yeah,
And she might not want to be run by Barack. So the whole thing just, you know what? I'm not going to be the president. And
yeah.
that's that.
It's
I'm not
easier.
interested. It's just easier.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. All right. I'm mindful of the time here, so let's wrap up. So what have we agreed? So would a Trump presidency lead to civil war?
Nope.
We said no. World war?
Nah.
No,
Nah.
it wouldn't, would it? So should we be afraid of Donald Trump becoming president then? So all these
Yes, we should. Economically.
economically, so right. So rather than fisticuffs with
Mm,
real weapons, we
mm.
think that there could be an economic impact of
Yes, yes, against
Trump's
China for sure. That could take off and be really bad all over the place for everyone.
because he would put so many sanctions on China, they
Yep.
would, yeah, I can see that being a problem. I don't understand why he's got this beef with China.
Well,
He hasn't with Russia.
He thinks that China stole all the jobs and everything. It wasn't that they stole all the jobs. His capital willingly fled to
Yeah, of
China.
course it did, because it's
That's what capital
cheaper.
does,
Yeah,
Yeah,
it does. It does.
it's not China's fault that they took advantage of it.
No,
But he
absolutely
also
not.
accuses them of being underhanded and being very sly in their dealings, which is risible coming from an American president. Because if America does one thing, it's very sly and very underhanded. So
Indeed.
a bit rich, I think.
Indeed. Okay. I mean, that's a good point to end on. Unfortunately, we have reached the end of the show for another week.